What's up, guys? DRJ here. Should swallow before I talk. And today I want to talk to you guys about some of the finer points behind what I think would improve CoD while still keeping CoD. Yeah. I use CoD that many times in one sentence. So I think, like I said, it's a big challenge to work within the framework of, you know, making CoD a better game without necessarily reverting back to the way that it used to be, which is where skilled gamers would poop all over lesser gamers 99 times out of 100. Not that it's necessarily a bad thing. I don't think that the answer to skilled gamers beating people is to make a game where anybody can be, you know, king for a day. But I think that it is possible to make some refinements or adjustments to CoD while still keeping the game relatively the way that it is now. Another basic point that I wanted to point out is that I think people need intrinsic or some type of self-motivation to pursue you know, gaming objectives, things like capping flags, because if they don't, they just won't do that. You know what I mean? If I go out to cap a flag in domination and I notice that, then I notice that, you know, it's a 15-second whatever solo flag cap, and when I'm hanging out in the open with a 360-degree killing field all around me, the chances of me wanting to do that are probably not good. If you notice that people are either defining fun or pursuing things like KD much more so than other objectives, then I think you need to take a finer look at why exactly that is. If people are wanting to play things like, you know, play their KD, then is there a way to encourage them to step out of that comfort zone? And like I said, they need a vested self-interest in doing so, otherwise it just simply is not going to happen. And you're going to end up with games like, you know, game modes like Domination, where it plays sometimes like a campier version of TDM, which is insane. So let's start off first. I want to go through the fundamentals. None of these should be too groundbreaking if you guys have followed any other stuff that I've done. So first of all, foremost, servers. You know, I would argue that you know, these games, any first-person shooter needs dedicated servers. A dedicated server is the most equal playing field for everybody involved. You know, whatever they have going on right now in Modern Warfare 3 with this lag compensation is another animal entirely. But in general, with peer-to-peer, you know, like I said, host advantage is a surreal advantage. And regardless of host advantage, you know, playing in such a way that, you know, you can dive around a corner and still be hit by bullets that were fired 1 second ago is just not acceptable. It's not acceptable in other formats of gaming, like real-time strategy games like StarCraft 2. It's not acceptable to click on a unit and have it interact or move, you know, 1 to 2 seconds later. It's not acceptable to have them go attack, you know, another group of enemies only to have those hits not register or something like that. That's not acceptable anywhere else, and it shouldn't be acceptable in first-person shooters. The big reason why we don't see dedicated servers on consoles is simply because it's cheaper to do a peer-to-peer. So I think this is something we're going to need to advocate for really heavily, especially on consoles. As far as PC goes, in general what happens is, for whatever reason, when you get dedicated servers, people also expect leniency as far as being able to mod their servers out and give, you know, create any and all options given this huge, gigantic list of variables at play. And that can't be the case, because what happens is you end up with no two servers being the same and all sorts of fucked up, just random chaotic bullshit. So I think that if you do go the dedicated server route, it needs to be done, it needs to be standardized. So that means that, like on PC, you need to have a standardized version of a dedicated server. It means, unfortunately, that you get to restrict any and all the options, because that's the only way to make a standard level of play, and likewise on console. You know, things like radar I've talked about in the past. Radar is a huge proponent in CoD. This is kind of a complicated subject to bring up because radar is there and it is very useful given the extremely complex and complicated level design. When you have things like vantage points and kill zones, also I'm using these terms synonymously, basically it talks about being someone able to lay down an area of fire covering a huge percentage of the map. Either way, like I said, the terms mean the same thing. But when you have large amounts of kill zones all over the map, it's difficult to navigate that actually without radar. So I think that the other change I want to see is something like the more simplistic map design, going back to something a little more similar to what COD4 was, where you know, there were fewer alleyways, fewer vantage points, fewer kill zones. Also opening up the maps and not necessarily funneling people through them the way they do now. Oftentimes you're resulting in maybe 2 to 3 ways, well, or more. But 2 to 3 ways to funnel somebody through the map, and it can be very, very difficult to break out of. Basically, if you're playing domination or even TDM or whatever, having like those alleyways or those path routes locked off and being able to make your way through them. So having a little bit more freedom might be nice. But I think first and foremost what needs to be addressed is the kill zones and the vantage points, which Modern Warfare 3 noticed that they were there, but did not take out. As far as radar goes, one of the ideas to solve the issues of radar, that if you, well, like I said, it's going to be 2 steps. Number 1 is going to be the map design, and if you can solve the map design issues, then it's going to be moving on to the radar. And I think one of the ways that you could keep radar in without necessarily hamstringing somebody by putting them all over the map via UAV or, you know, recon or whatever it is having things similar to the way it was in older games, where your teammates can call out and say that they see various enemy players, and you could even create it in such a way where you can't call out and see anybody, you can't notice, can't call out something on the minimap saying you see an enemy player until you actually do see the enemy player. But the difference is that enemy player is not going to be highlighted on that map or the minimap. I think there's no surer way to guarantee a death than to be basically painted on the minimap with a recon drone, especially playing modes like, you know, TDM and kill confirm. Just brutal. You might as well just suicide because you're dead. So weapon damage, this is something else I would like to see, I won't say normalized, but I like to see toned down. It's if you, I don't want to say you need to be able to react to being shot, but I mean, the way that how fast guns kill is, it seems like just a little bit too fast for me. But also, you know, adding things in like dedicated servers will significantly contribute to players not feeling like there's nothing they can do about being shot or dying. I know playing Black Ops didn't necessarily have a reputation for the world's greatest hit detection, but playing it on a dedicated server with a constant 60 to 75 ping, which is good, not the best, it felt like I could react to being shot, that I wasn't being instant killed, which is a monumental difference from what's happening in my experience in Modern Warfare 3. You know, another thing I like to see is explosives and tacticals. I think in Modern Warfare 3 right now, explosives are dialed in fairly correctly. I don't see too many people abusing any of the explosive weapons, which is a good sign. I don't think they should be there other than to maybe take out airstreaks. One of the other things that isn't necessarily dialed in right now is the tactical spam, and I'd like to see, number 1, fewer tactical options available, like as in you load out maybe 1 grenade, 1 tactical as opposed to multiple, and then that stun or flash duration is just way too long. It's around 5 seconds, a solid 5 seconds, and in a first-person shooter, a half a second could be a long time. 5 seconds is way over the top, so that needs to be adjusted as well. I'd like to see kill streaks, instead of kill streaks being looked at as kill streaks, I'd like to see kill streaks adjusted to point streaks. In general, I like to see more of the game revolve around a point system as opposed to a kill-based system. So some examples of this are, number 1, just renaming them I think will contribute a significant difference. But things like, say, capping flags in domination. So, number 1, 2 things. Number 1, already as you cap a flag in domination, you actually get it gives you the equivalent of a kill, right? But one of the ways, unfortunately, you get full credit for that flag by hopping in the last couple seconds. So I'd like to encourage people to cap flags both by being there early and capping them in general, by having that flag pulse maybe twice, maybe 3 times, whatever, you know, play balance figures out, probably twice. Which means that you cap that flag, and so if you're there in the first 50%, you get 1 point, and if you're there in the last 50%, you get another point. So that would encourage people to run down and jump on that flag in the beginning, as opposed to letting a teammate run and jump on there and wait till he's capped at 95% of the way and jumping on when he's done. You know, adding in other things too, like points for assists. So the way that, say, Hardline Pro works, so every 2 assists you get the equivalent of, say, 1 kill. Now I'd like to add it just to make that a base feature. For every 2 assists you get 1 point, because it can be very frustrating, and it's all too common in games to have, you know, many assists but no kills. And it doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, you weren't contributing. Hell, you could even have been shooting first. It doesn't matter. I mean, not getting that final bullet doesn't necessarily mean that you weren't a major factor in that person dying or taking that flag, etc. I'd also like to see the display loadout changed. and more reflect, like I said, a points-based system. So this does there's a few things I want to see with this. Number one, it would be the I would like to see the actual total values. I like to see them lowered to make more, so they can make more sense. So, you know, if flags are giving, say, 2 points and kills are giving 1 point, I would like to see them, like, you know, the total value of points, you know, be somewhere around 50, 60, something like that at max versus, say, in the thousands. I think it's harder to make sense of what somebody did or did not do when you have a higher numerical value. And I don't know if that's done intentionally or not, but like I said, I would like to see those numerical values lowered to make it easier to see where people, what they were doing for their kills and what they did to get those points. Also, you know, putting in things, you know, like many of you guys have suggested on all sorts of videos, putting in things like, you know, displaying the amount of flag caps that you've done, you know, not having flag caps, you know, as a numerical representative on your overall score, doesn't necessarily encourage people to do that. I don't think you necessarily also, like you guys have talked about, you need to take out KD and stat-wise and stat tracking, and I don't think that you do. I think kills can still be there, but like I said, if you're adding in other factors and trying to increase, from across the board, if you're trying to increase different areas to encourage a points-based system as opposed to a kill-based system, like I said, I think that you can encourage people to act as team-based, encourage people to have team-based gameplay versus, say, you know, the solely KD-wise gameplay. And like I said, it's no one solution. It's, you know, it's everything. It's the map design. It's radar. It's like those vantage points and kill zones. It's the kill streaks. You can't ask people to play as a team and encourage people to be moving out and taking points and helping each other out when it is in their best self-interest to do exactly the opposite. So like I said, it's a variety of features. It's something along the lines of what I'm talking about. I think that it is possible to keep instant respawn, by the way, as much as I might like to see a small respawn timer, which isn't out of the realm of possibility. But like I said, the farther away you go from the respawn timers or from instant respawn and things like that, the farther away you move from CoD. So I think you need to keep things like kill streaks. You need to keep instant respawn. You can change the way the system respawns. I don't think anybody would argue for the current respawn system in Modern Warfare 3. It's nothing like I've played before in any other CoD game. I didn't play Modern Warfare 2. So I think you can definitely change that without having this revenge spawn system and have people spawn farther away, which would be, you know, pretty huge. So, you know, if you guys like this, feel free to tweet it at, you know, whoever's out there asking for game design suggestions. Somebody mentioned, I don't know if it was Treyarch that was asking for design suggestions. I don't know if that's true or not, but if it is, feel free to let them know. And if you don't like it, feel free to, you know, tweet it at them with your own addendums. Write something up, create your own blog, post on my website. Like I said, I think it's the most important thing we can do is create this dialogue and make ourselves heard. Talk to your friends, and, you know, like I said, we can make better games in the future. So, hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know what you think. You know, comments, criticism, all the above, and happy holidays.